Hello, gorgeous seekers, and welcome to our moon magic and our discussion for the Libra full moon on March 28th, 2021. You know, for me personally, I find that Libran new and full moons are one of the more intense moons, but that's just for me personally. A lot of other people feel that these are mellower. This moon specifically is quite poetic. The placements are kind of wild because they're very crisp, very clear. This is not about subtlety. This is not about like some subtle little shifts in conversations. This is going to be clear and present and focused energy. So let's talk about what's going on. So the moon's going to be at 8 degrees of Aries, and opposing the moon is of course going to be the sun, which makes it the full moon, as well as conjunct with the sun, Chiron and Venus. Yes, Chiron, Venus, Sun are all going to be at 8 degrees of Aries. So we have some major opposition going on here with this full moon in Libra. And you know, the Aries-Libra axis is a really essential one to just like being a human here in the human experience. You know, Aries is about the I am, right? Like that's often what it's associated with, like really activating our selves, moving through the world, right? It's essential, it's core, it's something that makes the human experience have that fun, that passion, that curiosity, that playfulness, the kind of like new experience energy that Aries brings with it. And Libra, that air energy, that opposing energy, has to do with our relating to others. So we have our I am, and then we have our we are, our, you know, dynamics with those close one-on-one relationships, the way that we give and receive, right? The way we balance out that singularity with being with other, right? And the way that other helps make our lives here in the physical more real. And it really does. It's an important part of the process. So this is a very powerful and really, like I said, getting back to like the bones of being in the human experience. I feel like the Aries-Libra axis is like the backbone of that. And so it's very important energy. And this opposition going on here is actually really wonderful for healing and for reactivating some courage, some self-acceptance, and some warmth. A lot of us have had a very hard year, and we have a lot of us have made ourselves a little small, you know, kind of stayed out of the storm's path, right? And like maybe modified the way that we feel courageous about certain things. And I can't speak for everyone, but this full moon can help us integrate parts of this experience into our mythology and therefore move forward feeling better and more empowered. And that's where it's really important that Chiron and Venus are here with the sun. This is really powerful symbolism and I love it. So let's start with Venus here, because this is also a really interesting full moon in the sense that Venus meets the sun only every, I don't know, maybe 9 months Venus and the sun meet. Venus has like an 18-month cycle that she goes through, and so about every 18 months we have a Venus retrograde. And when Venus and the sun meet here, we had a Venus retrograde back in May and June of 2020. When we're meeting her here, you know, about 9 months later, 10 months later, this is when she transitions into being the evening star. So for part of the year we see her in the morning, and for part of the year we see her in the evening. So she becomes the evening star, and symbolically when Venus shifts into this other part of her journey, which we will be beginning right after this full moon, this meeting of her and the sun are starting this. This is an emphasis for Venusian self-love. Venus, yes, she can be about all those pleasures and joys and beautiful things, but when she's in this part of her cycle, there's a higher emphasis on self-love, on self-worthiness, on a real relationship to ourselves. So symbolically already, this Venus placement is really powerful. Then we're going to add Chiron on top of that. Chiron is the wounded healer. And he's a wisdom teacher. I think sometimes we have an idea around the Chiron mythology that it's about pain and it's about like shadow work, and yes it is. However, it's not the way that like we do shadow work when we think about like Scorpio energy or Pluto energy, or you know, some of those energies that have to do with like going to the root system and digging around in the darkness. Chiron is about the wisdom, the teacher. He's like the great philosopher teacher that comes in, and we get some distance. We understand, what our wounding is. We understand what we consider weak points in ourselves, and we use that information as a tool, as a way to strengthen and empower ourselves. That's Chiron's gift in the world, is that kind of healing modality. So when he's here in this conjunction, one of the big messages I realize the moon's over in Libra, so we'll talk about how this moon is all, it's getting opposed by all this energy. So you got to think about this full moon's going to be illuminating these places where we're wanting to find greater harmony and balance. And this Chiron placement here opposing the full moon, being right there, hanging out with Sun and Venus, this is a moon that is going to highlight, anywhere where you have maybe started to think of yourself in a certain way. Oh, well, I'm actually really shy, or I'm not very good at that talent, or I'm not allowed to do this thing, or, oh, well, because since I was a young child, I've had, you kind of perceive yourself in different ways. We all have our own story inside of us about who we are and like where our limitations are and what our fatal flaws are. Chiron medicine is always going to have us look at those places that we think of as deep flaws, as something lacking, as something that's like our wound or our flaw or lack, like I said. And rather than like pushing it away and saying, ugh, we embrace it, we learn from it, we use it as a tool to actually heal others and to heal ourselves, right? And to embrace it. And so this is a very healing moon in that way. And I think when you have Libran energy, which is about harmony and balance, it's about finding balance, it's about finding harmony, getting opposed by all this very, very powerful symbolic energy that has to do with healing, self-love, self-acceptance, acceptance of your journey, embracing of your journey, and utilizing your journey as something that empowers you rather than disempowers you, right? This is what it's all about. But that moon getting challenged is going to mean as well, one thing with Libran energy, Venus actually rules Libra, and Libra loves, it's a very beautiful energy. It wants beautiful things. It wants harmony. It wants connection. It wants things to flow and to work. The shadow side of that is it can sometimes stick on the surface, like what looks nice, right? This moon is getting challenged to say we can't just stay on the surface if we want to really feel self-love, self-acceptance. We're going to have to go dive deep and be with ourselves, with our I am, and really appreciate and understand what that I am is for us, right? Before I pull a card, a couple other things that are just going on. There's a lot of conjunction energy during this full moon, which for me always kind of speaks to, full moons are already about closing out, closure, release, acceptance, surrender into what is next, right? And when you have a whole bunch of conjunctions like this, it kind of brings things full circle. So you may be finding this is a moon too, where you're able to kind of get that full circle understanding of an experience, that full circle understanding of a longer energetic cycle. There's some of that energy here. And this moon, the moon itself, is actually getting loosely trined by the other two, with energy in the other two air signs. So we have Libra moon, right? And then we have Saturn at 11 degrees of Aquarius, so a very loose trine with the moon. And we also have, this is really interesting, the North Node and Mars are conjunct in Gemini at 14 degrees, so even more loosely trining this full moon. However, all this air energy getting activated is also how we use our thoughts, how we use our words to either bolster us, right? Either to create magic in our lives, to support us, to feel safe, to give our nervous system messages that are soothing or helpful, or giving our nervous system a whole bunch of reasons to get really revved up, right? Like our words and our thoughts are so powerful in the way that we live as human beings. And this moon's also going to highlight that. So just thinking about the way we've been maybe talking to ourselves in this last season of life, in this last year, or in recent months, and just kind of taking some time to workshop that, really just at the simplest level, right? And just kind of notice and maybe give ourselves the chance to write up new ways of talking to ourselves that we want to use moving forward. And it doesn't have to be cheesy affirmations, right? It doesn't just have to be like, I am full of abundance and I am safe, which, by the way, as cheesy as those sound, when you keep at it and you keep telling yourself that, it is helpful. But it can go a little deeper than that. You can get more detailed into how you want to talk to yourself, how you want to talk about your life or your experiences or your losses, however it feels good to you. This is a great moon for that. So like I said, a lot of powerful symbolism here. We're starting a new phase of the Venusian cycle, which is kind of cool. We will have another retrograde of hers at the very end of 2021 and the early part of 2022. So we have a while before Venus does her retrograde, but we are in a new part of her cycle, which is kind of cool, starting right after this moon. Okay, let's see what card wants to come out. King of Cups. It's actually really interesting because this moon has very little water energy. It's a ton of air in the sky and quite a bit of fire. And, air and fire are far from water energy, right? However, I think there's a lot of emotional intelligence to this moon. There's a lot of acknowledging of the subtleties. And here's what I'll say, King of Cups to me, every time I see him, I just love this energy. It's one of my favorite energies to work with ever. I think about how this is about real emotional intelligence in our own systems, right? The King of Cups uses his emotions, or where he feels a sense of anxiety or stress or sadness or any emotive state, as clues to where he needs to navigate, pay attention, listen in, right? And he uses it to his advantage so that he can stay upright on this sea, this ocean, and maintain, his integrity and his sense of balance, right? And that's what's beautiful. I think, we want to often feel bad that maybe we are feeling stressed or anxious or tired or depressed or frustrated or even angry. There's a lot of different emotive states that we have as humans. And, it's important to actually use these emotions to notice, okay, what's underneath that? What's going on? What pattern isn't working for me? What thing is coming at me that somewhere deep inside of myself, this doesn't feel right to me, right? And it's very useful information. If we're willing to kind of look at it from that perspective, we can actually help ourselves feel safer, feel calmer, and feel protected within ourselves. And that's what King of Cups is all about. And I feel like this moon, with the Chiron and Venus energy opposing this full moon, it's great. This is a great full moon to acknowledge any of those emotions that maybe have been popping up for you a lot. This is a great full moon to let those emotions give you the information you need. This is a great full moon to just go into that intimacy with yourself and to find some clarity there. And that's what King of Cups is all about. We, over the last few hundred years, there's nothing wrong with rationality. I think being able to detach and look at things from a detached perspective and see how it's working and realize, we're not being, that we don't need to see it in these specific ways is a beautiful thing. It can really help us, but it has to be balanced. Speaking of Libra and balance, it has to be balanced with emotional intelligence. And that's what the King of Cups here is saying, don't be afraid to let yourself feel those things. Don't feel that it makes you less worthy. Just allow yourself to go there with it. And I just love that. And this moon is powerful. It is powerful. It's a powerful symbolic rebirth kind of energy. And also I would say, for me, a lot of the energy of this full moon has to do with self-love, self-acceptance, self-worthiness, the relationship you have with yourself, right? The relationship we have with ourselves is going to be reflected in the relationship we have with others. But I'd also say, with a Libra full moon, this can also be a beautiful time to do that work with the people you're closest to, with those one-on-one powerful relationships. This is a great full moon to also, you can explore those conversations with those that you feel safe with, right? With those that deserve to have these conversations. It's not everybody that you're going to want to do that work with, but anybody that maybe you just want to get a little closer, get a little bit more vulnerable, get a little bit more into how you're recalibrating your relationship. This is a great moon for that as well. So, Also, what I would say, just like with all of that mind, like, it's kind of a sensitive moon, and it's kind of, you can kind of feel a little raw and a little like exposed, because you're going to be noticing that relationship with yourself. You know, when we really look at it, it's very intimate. Just be kind to yourself. You know, don't overthink it too much. Don't, you don't have to solve everything during this full moon. Just know that it is a chance to get a little deeper and to accept ourselves a little bit more deeply. I'm going to be doing an awesome activation about how to kind of do that Chiron healing work, that Venusian self-love healing work, retooling our thoughts, using our thoughts to kind of help us out a little bit moving forward. So if you're looking for that, we will be doing that on Patreon, where I do a lot more teachings and we get a little deeper into the topics. So I'd love to see you there. If you're looking for more guidance and support, it's a great community. You can also find me on my website and my Instagram, of course, and I would love it if you liked and subscribed and stuck around. I love this community so much here, and it really has meant a lot to me doing the work that we've done together all these years. You can also find PinkLune's gorgeous jewelry on her Etsy shop, so I'll leave her link in the description box as well. And I will see you all for our next moon and for many readings ahead.